Hello and welcome to the Dailies. The Greenland dispute has splashed across front pages on both sides of the Atlantic, evolving from a tariff threat into a wider test of transatlantic unity, and also raising fresh questions about where the U.S.-Europe relationship goes next. International attention has also turned to Spain, where a deadly high-speed train crash has triggered demands for clear answers on safety systems, infrastructure and accountability. And in culture, the fashion world is mourning Valentino Garavani, the legendary designer behind Valentino Red, whose gowns helped define decades of celebrity glamour. American media has framed the Greenland dispute as a major test of NATO and U.S.-Europe relations, not just a tariff row. Coverage highlights Trump's coercive tactics and the risk that the trade war will raise prices and hit U.S. growth and markets. Many stories also stress the personal grievance angle, with Trump tying it to the Nobel Peace Prize snub. The New York Times argues that Trump's aggressive Greenland push is pushing the U.S.-Europe alliance towards a breaking point. The analysis highlights Trump's campaign combining tariff threats, coercive diplomacy, and hints of military force. The piece captures growing alarm in European capitals, where leaders are weighing unprecedented question: whether an 80-year partnership can survive a U.S. president willing to economically punish allies. With Macron urging a hard response and Starmer counseling restraint, the piece suggests trust has been fundamentally damaged, and Europe's push for strategic independence is accelerating. Ishan Tharoor's column in The Washington Post paints Davos 2026 as a summit happening under Trump's shadow and against the very globalist ideals the forum represents. As Trump heads to Switzerland amid tariff threats over Greenland and a broader coercive foreign policy, Tharoor argues the world is adapting to a harsher new reality where power politics override rules. He highlights also rising inequality, geopolitical confrontation, as well as new trade alignments forming as allies hedge against an unpredictable America. The Wall Street Journal explains the economic risks of Trump's Greenland tariff threats, warning that a U.S.-Europe split would have serious knock-on effects far beyond politics and diplomacy. The analysis stresses how deeply intertwined the economies are. Europe is America's biggest trading and investment partner, and a trade war would definitely raise prices, squeeze manufacturing supply chains, and risk market volatility if European investors pull back. The piece says a recession is indeed unlikely, but growth would slow, and the biggest risk is the U.S. and Europe drifting apart economically over the long run. The Economist seems to have a different view. The publication argues that Trump's Greenland tariffs are more irritation than catastrophe for Europe, at least if escalation is contained. The analysis notes the EU exports to U.S. equal about 2.8% of GDP, and research suggests Americans absorb 96% of tariff costs. Even new Greenland tariffs would shave only 0.04% of EU output, rising modestly if duties hit 25%. But the real danger, according to the piece, is escalation beyond goods tariffs into export controls, services and tech regulation, where the economic fallout could become far more serious. Politico argues that Europe is struggling to stay united against Trump's Greenland tariff threats because France and Germany are at odds again. The report explains that Merz wants to align with Macron, but tensions over the South American trade bloc, Mercosur, Ukraine funding, and the stalled fighter jet project are making that hard. The piece notes Macron wants a tough response using the EU's trade bazooka, while Merz prefers calm talks, and Germany's coalition is divided. Newsweek examines the EU's anti-coercion instrument, the trade bazooka, designed to punish countries that try to bully Europe economically. The analysis explains the instrument was created in late 2003 but never used. It gives the EU a menu of powerful retaliatory tools, from limiting US access to European markets to targeting services to investment and even intellectual property rights. The piece argues the EU may finally consider firing its biggest deterrent after Trump's tariffs threat. European media has been near unanimously alarmed, framing Trump's Greenland tariff threat as economic coercion against allies and a stress test for NATO unity. Many outlets emphasized Europe's dilemma: avoid escalation while quietly preparing retaliation, especially the EU's anti-coercion trade bazooka. The tone also highlights fractures inside Europe, as we've mentioned, and growing fears of a wider transatlantic trade war. The Telegraph reported that Keir Starmer is urging Europe not to retaliate against Trump's Greenland tariffs, warning a tit-for-tat trade war would damage Britain even if the UK stayed out. The report recounts how Starmer called using tariffs against allies completely wrong, and how he backed Greenland and Denmark's sovereignty, and also how he preferred quiet diplomacy over public confrontation. The piece highlights divisions inside Europe. France pushes the EU's anti-coercion bazooka, while Germany and the Commission lean towards restraint. Now, with Trump insisting on 10% tariff from February the 1st and hinting at force, the piece frames Starmer as prioritizing alliance stability and economic risk management. William Hague argues in The Times that Britain risks looking weak if it only tries to calm Trump's Greenland threats without strengthening its own power. He says the U.S. has always had strategic access to Greenland through long-standing defense agreements. So Trump's push for ownership is, from his point of view, unnecessary, immoral, and legally indefensible. Hague also supports Starmer's diplomacy for now, but insists the UK must be ready to retaliate if tariffs hit. His core warning: the crisis should jolt Britain and Europe into serious defense rebuilding. The Independent asked whether Starmer will need to use the king as his trump card in the Greenland row. The analysis argues that Starmer's most effective leverage in the Greenland tariff row may be the one Trump cares about the most: royal prestige. The piece says that Trump's fascination with the monarchy and state visit pageantry has already been quietly used by Downing Street to smooth ties, win trade advantages, and keep Trump engaged. With a proposed July 4th state visit by King Charles now looming as a golden carrot, the piece suggests the UK could use it to restrain Trump and prevent escalation. It concludes with a warning that the tactic is risky, as cancelling or withholding royal involvement could provoke Trump and worsen the crisis. Le Monde's editorial argues that the EU can no longer appease Donald Trump as he escalates the Greenland crisis with tariff threats. Now, the paper says that Trump alone is responsible for the showdown, targeting a NATO ally sovereign territory, despite Greenlanders rejecting any US takeover and Denmark offering security cooperation. It warns that Europe's past flattery and one-sided deals have emboldened Trump, and also invites further attacks, including on EU digital rules. The article concludes the EU must defend sovereignty and self-determination and respond firmly, because Trump respects only pushback. Also in Europe, Spanish media led with rolling live coverage of the tragic high-speed train crash, focusing on the death toll, hospital updates, survivor accounts, and the national mourning response. Reporting quickly pivoted to the mystery of the derailment on a straight track, with heavy attention on technical causes, maintenance and accountability. RTVE's report tackles this very central question: what went wrong and why it's so hard to explain. The piece stresses that investigators are facing a rare puzzle. The derailment happened on a recently renovated straight section of the track, involving modern trains traveling within speed limits. With Renfe unusually quick to downplay human error, attention turned to technical possibilities such as wheel or bogie faults, also rolling instability, track condition and the coordination of safety systems. RTVE highlights indeed the critical factor that makes the case especially complex. The two trains collided just 20 seconds after the derailment, leaving almost no margin for automated systems to prevent the impact. And we'll end with The Sun, which published a tribute to Valentino Garavani, who died at the age of 93, charting how the designer turned Valentino Red into a global fashion signature and became the go-to name for show-stopping celebrity gowns. The piece indeed revisits his rise from small-town Italy to founding his Rome fashion house in 1960, building a billion-pound luxury brand worn by everyone. The piece also highlights the drama behind his famous fallout with Princess Diana, underscoring how even couture royalty wasn't immune to scandal. That's it from us today. Thanks for watching The Dailies, only on Al Arabiya English.